Say hi. You're not going to say hi? Look, he's right there. It's Jonathan. Old John Holmes.
I'm blowing air on you, Minnie.
I know how to get her to see it though. She looks at herself. Hey, can you say hi to the baby? See the baby? Say hi to the baby. No.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired. Sup, Holmes?
So I'm here with Edmund, Danielle, and Minnie, the McMillens. Peach is at school.
Now you want to say hi. Say hi, yeah? Say hi to the baby. Say hi to the baby.
Oh,
You
she's excited.
No.
She's hopping. No. Oh, whoo. That was good.
She's just being a little dork. She's leaning in and smiling. But
She's
not,
awesome.
Not waving. The baby who waves at everyone she sees is refusing to wave. Say hi.
She's smiling though. She's liking it. But the next step. she's giving you the side eye. Like she's
Want more?
Hi.
Hey Danielle, good to see you.
Do you want more? Yeah.
She's a big foodie.
Oh, awesome. How old is she now?
She's 10 months.
Oh.
Yes.
That is so close. Was that a mama of sorts?
It says mama.
Oh yeah, mama and daddy.
Mommy,
Awesome.
daddy, Nona.
Kitty, sissy. It all just kind of sounds the same to other people.
No.
But you know. And she's having a great time.
No, she's like, no, it's embarrassing.
Yummy, I kiss. Oh, thanks. She's fine. How dare you? First of all.
And your son's 6 now?
Almost. Good. Great memory. Yeah, he turned 6 in August.
It's not
He's
a
a-
hard memory to have because
Because
he's
Pete.
basically the same
Yeah.
age as Pete.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he is in pre-K.
Oh, nice.
And so we're excited for him. He's really excited for summer vacation, but he also loves school. So it's been a good balance.
You may be aware of this. I might have talked to you about it, but I was diagnosed with a bunch of stuff when I was really little, and I was held back first grade, and I had to do special classes into high school.
That's right. I remember us talking about this maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I was like, maybe my kid will just be one of the best game designers ever. I mean, it worked out for you. And you're like, oh, maybe. Yeah, encourage him. That's all I needed. Is and you told me
School was a weird thing. It's just kind of weird to know that you're going to those.
Is jail.
School's jail, as Danielle says. It's weird as a kid to just go to special classes and other people see you going to these special classes and then just feel extremely different than everybody else.
Yep, big time. It's so weird. Have you heard of Umurangi Generation?
No, I've not.
It's a game. I don't know if you would enjoy playing it that much, but I think you'd really like the person who made it. It's a photography game, but what you take pictures of slowly adds up to evidence that the world is about to end because the government sort of screwed up, and then the world ends. So that's the game. So the reason I bring him up is he literally just told me that there's evidence that schools were designed to mimic prisons. It's the same. It's like the exact same thing.
That makes sense. It
God,
makes
I
sense.
believe it.
I mean, I always felt like it was a way for people to, if not prisons, it was definitely army. Like it's an easy way to get people in line to get used to doing what you're told.
Yep, exactly. It isn't about. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Danielle.
It was always so hard for me. Like I hated it so much. I left as soon as I could. But then other people would be like, you. Other people would be like, it's easy. It's the easiest thing you can do. But for me, it was not. For me, it was the hardest thing I could do.
Yeah, it was super, super hard for me too. For reasons you described, always felt like I was doing it wrong. Always felt like I was being judged. and looked at the people who are great followers and thought, I'll never be that. So it's just hopeless. Like there was a sense of hopelessness and dread, and just waiting for your service or your sentence to get over. I was just waiting every day to graduate. Graduated with like a D-, just like the bare minimum to get out of there.
I always did the same thing too. I mean, that I struggled so much until I hit puberty, and when I hit puberty, I evened out because I was the kid who was always in the principal's office. Not for like I never did anything really bad, but I would just be defiant, and I would purposefully cause problems or just try to get a laugh, you know. And that happened until I hit puberty, and then I mellowed out, and I wasn't so hyper. And then it was just, how do I get through this doing the minimum amount of work? And how do I manipulate my teachers in ways so I don't have to do as much?
I mean, I don't know how great it is actually living it, but from the outside looking in, when I look at your Kickstarter and just look at your past 5 years or so making card games, I know you worked hard on Repentance as well, but the card games have been a major part of your lives, and it just seems like the dream life. Like I would love to just make. I know
I thought you said hard games. They're kind of hard.
I mean, the past couple of years have been amazingly horribly hard.
Yeah, have they?
Not just this thing.
Can you chill out, please? Jesus Christ.
No, yeah, we went through like the COVID, the lost year. Not only was lost. Is this gonna work with this baby here?
We'll make it work.
She's too excited about it.
Don't poop.
Oh, maybe she's pooping.
Oh.
Sometimes she gets really intense when she's pooping.
Get it out.
What is this? God, Jesus.
Sticky.
Oh yeah.
Got to poop in there.
Yeah.
That'll do it. So she was hopping up and down because she's like, it's squishy. Well, I just having so much fun talking to you. I lost track of time. I forgot that there was like on the record stuff. I guess we should talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about stuff that, that you can use. I feel like this is just like a casual conversation.
That's what I always like doing with you the most.
Oh God.
I heard his story. I'm just gonna burn the hours with story time. Peach comes home. When she comes home, she has to do her things that she does. And the things that she does is she goes into her make-believe world and she plays as a character, many different characters. These characters are severely mentally handicapped. And she's obsessed with kids with disabilities or severe deformities.
Wow.
Yeah, but she mimics speech. So it doesn't matter if a kid has a slight speech impediment, she'll record it and then come home and she'll make a new character based on that person and talk exactly like them. So one of them is Harper Millie, and she's the most fucking annoying one. So Millie has a whole other meaning in this house. It's just like, oh God, can you do anybody but Harper Millie?
Or can you be Harper Millie and not talk to me and go somewhere else?
Yeah, or Harper Millie could go over in the other side of the room and talk to herself. Because we're not talking to Harper Millie.
Unbelievable.
For a while she did an African woman's accent.
And I don't even know.
She's like, I can't even do it. But I guess they're just studying Africa at school or something.
The thing that was good though was that the little girl that I was talking to, her dad is a nurse and her mom works at the fire department.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, she always says like what the parents do, but usually if it's a kid who can only blink or or only makes little gasps, she always points out that her mother and father love her very much.
I was gonna hit the dig at us though.
I know it does. It seems like, what do you mean? What do you mean, Peach? But anyway.
She's focusing on the positives. Wow, that is, I mean, to mimic other people, you need to get into their head, and she's wanting to do that so bad and like bring them home and create her own world.
definitely studies. She studies people.
Uh-huh. That's amazing.
I don't know. There's a video series on YouTube where there's a guy, you'd like it. He's like very genuine. He goes around, I think it's him and his wife, and they interview kids with special needs, but severe cases, just to like make it not scary for kids or ask questions that they might want to ask or whatever else. She loves that one. But there's some like, it's like kids that have severe burns across their faces, you know, that sort of stuff. So stuff that can be very shocking to kids, but just to show them that, you know, it's still everybody's a person inside, that sort of stuff. So
that's
teach that stuff.
That's great.
She's always asking me, is it possible if somebody could have an extra eye? And I was like, well, no, but there are people who have like 2 irises in one eye. And she's like, let me see pictures. So we look at pictures. We got into there's that case of the guy who had a conjoined twin, but only the face on the back of his head. Have you heard of that one?
No.
It's an infamous case. There's like it's almost a creepypasta based on it, but it was a real thing, and it's supposedly the guy killed himself when he was 27.
We don't know if it's true.
But we don't. Yeah, there's no way to know. It's like so old.
But
it was a guy who had another face facing backwards, obviously, on the back of his head. That would, when he would smile, the head would smile in the back.
Not smile, grimace.
No, either. It would mimic his.
Oh, I thought if he smiled, that it would.
No, if he was sad, it would be sad, and if he was happy, like it would mimic his facial expressions.
That's so terrible.
And it's terrifying. And Peach was like all about it. She's like, oh, I want to see it. I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, I want to see it. So,
yeah. So one brain, but 2 faces. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I believe obviously the head had nothing going on with it. But I think it was just attached to the nervous system, so it would react the same way. But it was a very small, little, old-looking face. You could Google it.
And the rumor was that it laughed.
Yeah, the rumor was that it whispered to him at night, and that's why he killed himself. But that it would make noises, it would make weird sounds at night. So I'm raising my daughter right.
Well, she feels safe to play around with all of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. Like, quite honestly, I don't even fucking care about this Kickstarter thing. We don't need to talk about that at all. Whatever. I love to just shoot the shit and hang out.
Me too. Yeah, I agree. But
yeah, I can burn through those Kickstarter questions.
Yeah, just whatever.
Give it to me. I'll answer them. Then we can move on to stuff that's actually entertaining.
Well, the Kickstarter, it's so easy for you who've been. I mean, you're right next to it. I was telling you earlier before we started recording, I'll be on Twitter. I'll see you reposting 20, 30 different things people did, lists of stuff people did, and they're eating it up. You're doing a Kickstarter right now for Binding of Isaac, 4 Souls, the card game, Requiem, which is an expansion. And I was worried, frankly, that people are going to burn out on the cards because this is your 3rd card game in about 4 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. Because you did Tapeworm, which so much fun. I was so glad to have that during the pandemic, frankly. It hit at just the right time for people who haven't played it. Tapeworm is a game where you don't need to know stats or numbers. You just put together basically a puzzle of worms, but you try to get them to connect, and you can screw over other people and cut their worms. It's a lot.
I mean, Tapeworm was really made for a kid like me who wasn't comfortable reading in front of people or any kind of words. I wanted there to be no words and just visual icons, and I wanted it to be spatial, a spatial visual based game for kids and families that like spatial things.
When the kids were little and we wanted games.
You got to come over here.
No, I can't.
She was reminding me that it came about at a time when our niece and nephew were young, and I was trying to come up with games to play with them that were easy to explain. And it's the easiest thing to explain is simply matching visual pieces together
and creating characters. You get to create a map that you can pretend it's alive. So you feel like you're making a place and making little creatures. It's a great game. And then you came back to do For Souls Requiem, which is an expansion. I was worried, frankly, that people weren't going to go for it. It is doing, last time I looked, it was at like 4.5 million. It's done pretty well.
I think we're up to 4.6 something.
Okay. That's
yeah, it's starting to move again pretty. We're in this, it's called, they call it the biz folk. They call it the desert, the Death Valley.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. There's a name.
So good.
So basically like you're all that matters is the first 48 hours of your Kickstarter. And so it's this big boom, right? And then it just drops down and it levels out into Death Valley until the very last week. And then it climbs back up. And then the last 48 hours it peaks again. So it looks like usually. And I try my best because I hate the idea of like these things actually being quantifiable things that are true. So I try to do stuff to get it back up in the midst. And I've been able to just, I'm getting it to climb steadily instead of just peter out to nothing. Because the past 2 Kickstarters, when we hit that Death Valley, it was like a handful of backers a day, and so. But me and Javon are both. He's working the ads as much as he can, and then I'm working the Twitters, and the fans are working whatever they're working.
Well, I was gonna say, I haven't seen anything like it where daily fan interaction, where they are calling GameStops and describing Isaac to people. It's almost a prank call. You're so good at walking right up to that line where you're not encouraging people to do any malicious mischief, but it's definitely benign.
It's a little scary. I'm not gonna lie. I've had to look up laws, and I learned a lot of stuff. I learned a lot of things. You can full on do prank calls in most states in the United States without somebody knowing that you're recording them and be able to post that recording without permission. But in certain states like California and most of like the coastal states, you can't. You need permission. You need to at least let somebody know that they're recording them. So I learned that like on day 2 or whatever of this. So I was like, well, don't do illegal things. And there's just stuff. It's like, it's nerve-wracking at times, and it is honestly pretty stressful when I'm going through. And of course, I have Danielle and I also have Javon, like going through my lists and being like, do you see anything on here that's bad? Because one of the things I wanted to get people to do is I wanted video of people eating every item from Isaac, which someone was like moldy bread or dog food and cat food and all that stuff. And Danielle's like, do not do that. Like someone's going to get sick and we're going to get sued. I'm like, okay. And then one of the things was this: post a picture of how ashy you are.
I remember that one.
And I mean, quite literally just ashy, right?
Ashes.
And someone interpret, like dry, like ashy skin.
Oh yeah. Like you need moisturizing. Sure.
Yes. So, but other people interpreted it as ashes. Like, and then ashes. once that snowball started going, this guy posted a video of himself going into a live campfire with burning coals, scooping the ashes up and rubbing it all over his face. And I'm like, oh no! Like, I'm pretty sure that's like because the fires in California, when all the ash fell, they were like, make sure when you clean off the ash, you just wash it all away, because if wood ash and water make up like a corrosive acid.
Whoa!
That can burn your skin. And I guess a lot of kids that are, because I don't know if you remember as a kid like playing around in ashes of a very put out fire or ashes in general. Like get your hands in it or whatever else. I guess if kids got themselves covered in ash and then ran around, their sweat in the creases of their arms or whatever else, you would get major crazy rashes and like burns.
Whoa.
So I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. Or like, pick people who are like, I know it never, I think it happened the first time we did it, but it was like post pictures of yourself worshiping Satan and somebody cuts themselves. And it's like, I'm not going to retweet this. I'm not going to like this. I'm going to act like this never happened. I did not ask you to do this.
Yeah.
Please don't hurt yourself. So now I have to like make sure that everything I post says, don't hurt yourself or do anything illegal, or the no-brainer stuff that you'd assume everybody would already know, but then they still.
Yeah, they might do, and then you don't know. First of all, you don't want to encourage them. You need to be clear that you're telling them not to do that. And
do you remember the ARG?
The ARG for the first Kickstarter, or for? I mean, you've done a lot of stuff.
It was a big ARG. I think it was for Afterbirth.
Yeah.
The one where they dug up the keeper at the end.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
That almost ended in disaster too. And luckily Tyrone was actually there in a car. He's like reporting to me, because in the middle of the night, they came out searching around for the keeper, because he was buried somewhere around Nicholas headquarters, right in the front. And they had convinced themselves that this photo place that was next to them, that had to be the place, because if you looked on their website, they had a bunch of very occult imagery, and some of it looked like stuff from the Binding of Isaac. So they're like, this is it, we have to go in there. And people were like, don't go into any buildings, like stop, don't. And they're like, well, we should try it out. And it's like trying to like stop them. And I'm like telling Tyrone, make sure they don't go in anywhere. And he's like, no, I'm watching. We were sitting in a van. Well, yeah, break-in essentially. So
wow.
that was almost a thing.
Yeah. So your community follows you. You made a game, a bunch of games now. There, if you count the card games, then there's 6 versions of Isaac. The original. Yeah, there's a lot.
I just say there's 10 years of Isaac, and that's good enough.
Yeah, there's a lot of Isaac out there, and it keeps coming in the game for people who haven't played it.
Oh man, John, can I go to the bathroom real quick?
Yeah.
Sit in for me. No, she won't. She'll pop.
You're coming?
John, do you need to go to the bathroom?
No, I don't. Thanks for asking. I'm like a camel.
Okay, I'm coming. Hold on. Well, if only Ed could be like a camel, but then he would have a hump full of poop. Cute.
Oh, and Minnie's there. So I was going to ask Ed about the power he has over his followers, whether he wants to have it or not. I've known Ed for a little while. You've known him for longer, of course. He never wanted power. I've never heard him say, I want to be like a CEO or take over the gaming world or something. It's always been, and like even interest in money. I've said to him before, like, I'm so happy your game sold so well. He's like, it did? I didn't oh yeah, I guess we're doing all right. Like that's just never where his head has been at. Money and power had never been things that it seemed like he was going for, and now.
And somehow people can't put that together, that's the way to do it. They want to know, what's the secret? The secret is to have fun. Whatever you are chasing, it's just going to get further away from you.
Whereas if instead you try to create something that people can share and have fun with, it's genuine, and that's
like we have. So I didn't realize that that maybe as a couple we are different than other people. We're constantly like looking up new things to do, getting into some new random thing. Like we're always collecting something. Sea glass. We went to the boardwalk one day for, I think it was maybe for our anniversary or something while Peach was in school, and then we got just addicted to this one game where you're putting tokens in and it pushes the tokens out, but with the pushing the tokens out, like you get it in the right spot and it pushes them out, it's pushing out these Wizard of Oz cards. You select all of the characters of the Wizard of Oz, and then Toto being the elusive hard to get card.
No way.
Yeah.
So they made like the best card, one of the hardest to get. The dog.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So, and you'd be like walking, we'd be like, there's like 6 little stations and we'd walk around and you'd see somebody playing with, and they'd have the Toto on there. And but you could kind of tell, like, do they know that's the card they need? or are these just filthy casuals and they're gonna leave and I'm gonna get that Toto? But so there was like a period of time of like a week where we're just like, we got to get to the boardwalk, we got to play that game. So we are always trying to have fun. That's all we want to do, because what's the point of doing anything else?
Yeah.
And I think that's like, we want to bring people into that too. So it's so fun to be interacting with people, especially on like with the first Kickstarter, before we had our second baby, I was really able to participate in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so fun being social without being in person necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
It's not draining in the same type of way.
Yeah.
So like streaming can be draining, but not as much if you had all those people at your house.
Yeah. Well, Ed has always told me he's an introvert who loves people, and the way I've taken that is he loves to be able to engage, but he's the kind of person whom on a conscious or subconscious level just cares so much about other people, he doesn't want to like do it wrong or mess up. So it was funny. I saw it in Minnie a little bit. He was trying to get Minnie to wave to me, and she's smiling. She cared so much about the engagement, but she's like, should I wave or should I not? Like, she didn't want to mess it up. And she kept looking at Ed for cues, and then she would just smile at me and Bob and whatever. So it's fun to see how the family, how the apple doesn't know it's far from the tree with you. Ed's back. What were you going to say, Danielle?
Oh, I don't know. He's an empath. Definitely.
Big time.
And the way that can work in our relationship can be very annoying, because he'll know what's wrong with me and I don't know what's wrong. Or I mean, he'll know something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's wrong and I don't want to talk about it. Okay, he's back. His hump is empty.
Oh, okay.
My butt hump.
Yeah.
I did the old dad joke about how I'm like a camel. I can store it forever. And she was like, oh, well, I'm glad Ed's not a camel because his hump would be full of shit. It was
sweat and diarrhea all day.
Oh my God.
So Danielle was explaining how you invite your fans into something fun and genuine, and they eat it up, and then they end up really looking up to you. I know a lot of people who really like deeply look up to you. And one of the reasons they look up to you is you never touted yourself as someone who should be looked up to. I've also seen a lot of people.
Well, I'm not somebody that should be looked at. I'm just a regular person, and I don't want to. I think that's one of the things that throws people a little bit, and also is hard to understand. Is like, I'm not any kind of professional advocate. I'm not here to say the right things. I'm just a regular person, and I have my own issues. And I don't think anybody should try to be like me, but I do hope that maybe just doing and being genuine will allow other people to also be genuine and realize that, you know, expressing yourself through art is a freeing, you know, almost religious experience that you can have that can be healing and expressive and give meaning. And that's one of the reasons why, like, so the things that I have people do go into multiple categories. Either it's funny to me, it's embarrassing to them, which is also funny to me. It forces awkward social interaction in the real world. Or it's creative, and the bulk of them are creative ones. So I pepper them in as we go. And I'm in awe of how funny, like genuinely funny, like there are, and I don't know if it's memes or what, but there are just so many actually just funny creative people out there. Like I just didn't expect to laugh so much at the dumb shit people do. And it's not just the ghost. So I had people fart on camera in front of their family. Danielle did the final fart, the public fart. This is coming from a woman who wouldn't poop in the same house as me for the first couple months of our relationship. 6 months. She farted on live internet.
Wow, she's come a long way.
I know. And so that was and it's just so fucking funny and weird how funny farts are and how they don't stop being funny. It's always funny. Like you go into a room and it's like somebody's brother's making food and then they're like, hey, and then they fart really loud. And then like the brother's just like cracking the fuck up. It's just like, it's just so, it's, or yeah, there's a guy who was like, broke out his phone and his girlfriend's behind him. And he's like, hey, and she's like, and she looks and she sees that he's recording both of them. So she thinks it's a sweet, nice thing and that he's doing something sweet and nice. And then he farts and says, bad gas. And then she just is like, the disdain. Oh my God, she is so upset. It was hilarious. And then the next thing that I did was I was like, okay, guys, for this one, we need 40 videos of real ghosts caught on film. And some people were like, this is impossible. But then some people were like, yeah, whatever. And they're like dressing up like ghosts and running around outside and whatever else. But then this one guy's like, I'm going to summon a ghost. And it's like a Ouija board. And then he just farts. He's like, I think that's a ghost. It was amazing. So anyway, it's cool to have like this public in-joke type thing happening. It's so cool to have people being just genuinely funny. And I'm in awe of how, like, man, the illustration skills of some of these people who are very young are incredible. Like, yeah. I would hate to be an illustrator. I would feel so terrible about myself right now if I was like a young kid coming up and being like, I'm looking on the internet and I'm seeing people that are like 14 and 15 years old, like outperforming professional 40-year-old artists.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not, I'd be lying if I didn't say that this wasn't a majorly draining thing. Like the social stuff is way harder than I expected. Mm-hmm. Doing streams is fun, but I can only do so much. And it's kind of I can't explain it. It's possible. She was saying it's because we're not always on the stream together. I mean, it would be more fun if I had somebody there with me. But yeah, this Kickstarter is definitely more draining than the other Kickstarters that I've done in the past. And there's so many people involved. Like I have to go, like right now, since we started this thing, I had about 249 tweets that I need to go through. And so I have to do that. I have to go through and I have to count all these entries. And it's like, why did I do this? Like, why did I set something to like 166 entries? Like I have to count these and I have to this countless tallying of everything that I have to do. And it's surprisingly a lot of work. And then the whole business of juggling, like trying to land different warp zones. Cause I had like, starting out, I had like 10 warp zones that I knew were like set in stone, mostly my friends in the industry and other people that I love, that I got the okay from early on. And then once everything started, I started getting a lot of people asking if they could be a part. And then I've also had a lot of people suggesting different games, people I don't know. And I'm trying my best to give people what they want. So I'm trying to get out there and make contact. So like my day is just centered around multiple phone calls, multiple emails, multiple DMs back and forth, just trying to find people that know the game enough to be like, yes, that would be fun to be part of that.
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna ask about the warp zones. For people who don't know, your card game is going to have crossover cards between Salad Fingers. You've got Nuclear Throne, Spelunky. Trying to remember all of them. Hotline Miami. A lot of stuff already, but you're trying to keep
Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
That's right. That's the one I was blanking on.
That was a huge achievement. I've been friends with Jonan for a while, and he's a really cool dude. And when I asked, I was like, I mean, because he hasn't done anything with Johnny in forever. Like it seems like there's no way. And he's like, yeah, that sounds cool. And then I had somebody else, I had one of my artists do art for it, and he's like, no, I'm gonna do the art. I was like, I was just trying to make your life easier, sir. But if you want to do the art, you can.
And it's like a big monstrous, I'm not totally familiar with all of the Johnny the Homicidal Maniac lore, but it's like a really intimidating, it's not just like cute little Johnny hanging out. It's like
oh yeah, he's blind Johnny. He's some sort of post-apocalyptic Johnny.
Yeah, which I have to imagine came from the heart because of all the stuff we've been going through lately. I was wondering if the Max is going to show up because Sam Keith, I did the.
Of course, I talked to Sam, and of course I asked. I think the Max is in a bit of a licensing limbo. He asked me to well, it's probably not a good idea right now because he doesn't want to rock the boat.
Sure.
He's not sure exactly if that would cross any lines, like if it said card game.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because there was, and I'm sure you have tons of these cards too, the Max collectible cards that were put out by Tops or whatever forever ago.
Sure. So there could be messiness.
Sure. How about the lead singer for Korn? Would you give him a card? Just the Korn guy?
I mean, I liked Korn in high school, and there are songs that I still enjoy. I would entertain the idea. Jonathan Davis is his name.
I think that.
Danielle did drugs. He can be part of it. Makes the connections makes perfect sense.
People call me gay at school. I know about this.
Yeah, we'll tell them. People call me gay at school. People call me gay now.
Yeah. They because people when it comes to you, people either I've talked about you a lot over the years, of course. So there's people who know you and love you. There's a whole a new generation of game devs, so I'm sure you've bumped into them, who are trying to be the opposite of Edmund and the old crew from who really blew up. And
what is the opposite?
Yeah, I think the opposite of your games for people that they're trying to push back and prove I'm not just an Edmund copy. I'm going to do things my own way, like how teenagers try to prove themselves as being individuals and being evolved. It's it's the whole wholesome games movement, which there's a lot of.
There's a wholesome games movement. Oh my God, these fucking rebels! This is punk as fuck. I thought they were all going to go Republican, but instead they've become children.
And there's a lot of pushback against them. I think a lot of the wholesome games are great, but when people say I'm actively trying to prove I'm better than not wholesome games, whenever you create art in order to try to kind of put down or destroy somebody else's art.
This is like when Bill Cosby was like, you don't have to say bad words to get a laugh, and then he raped everyone.
There's plenty of people in the wholesome games movement who are not necessarily that wholesome, and I am often suspicious of people who really want everyone to think they're there's a lot of great people who love Disney, but I've met some guys who like Disney a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And it turns out that there's a lot of darkness underneath there that they were just trying to put on. And it's even creepier that way. If somebody's just
Winnie the Pooh shirt becomes a code word for
something. Yeah.
For poo-poo doo-doo porn.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be for having your no pants on with the penis out.
Oh yeah, no pants on, penis out.
That is what Pooh does. Yeah, it's a cute look. So I pitched my Korn idea. Yeah, do you think so? The Kickstarter has this episode's going to go out next week, so it'll have a week to go at that point.
Yeah.
You said earlier we don't even need to talk about the Kickstarter. It's fine. You feel like you didn't come on here necessarily to talk about it. The
Kickstarter is going to do what the Kickstarter is going to do.
Yeah.
If people hear my voice and they know me, the high probability they've heard the Kickstarter at this point. So I'd rather people just have fun.
Yeah, I'm happy, and that's why the Kickstarter.
Besides, I already pitched. I don't even know if they cut it or not, but I did. I was at E3. I was at E3 like it was nothing. They invited me on. They said, hey, we're doing an indie games panel. And I said, yes, I will be a part of that. And then turns out I was the only indie developer on the panel, and everybody else were representatives of indie community type things based on in Nintendo and a bunch of multi-platforms. So it was me and 3 other people. These 3 other people were Nintendo, Freedom Games, and one other, and they were the heads of the independent thing. And I was there. So it's so weird because I'm the opposite of these are business people, you know?
Yeah, indie.
But I did get to plug the Kickstarter at the end, and I don't know if they cut it or not because I didn't get to see it when it was actually played live.
I would hope not. That's a whole other conversation. I'm of course curious about it, but if you're not interested in it, I understand too. How when you first started making games on Newgrounds, indie meant I don't have anyone giving me money. I don't have any built-in audience. I don't have a publisher who's doing my marketing. And your Kickstarter has made $4.6 million. You probably could be paying some schlub to count all the not that it would be a schlubby job, but you could decide to farm that stuff out. But I don't know if it always occurs to you to do that because you have just always done everything on your own with 1 or 2 partners. So that's what indie used to mean. And now indie is how someone will say that their band is punk, but it turns out that they're playing highly strategized corporate music, and punk is just the label in order to communicate to the audience. It's become a label. I mean, if Nintendo has an indie label, what does that mean? So how has that been for you to see that change, and how has it been for you to kind of stick with it? You've worked with a couple of publishers here and there, but by and large, you're still doing it all by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I still do that's like going in even with the Kickstarter. So I did this with Javon. And Javon used to work for Studio 71. He broke away, started his own company, and this is like the flagship, which is great that it's succeeding so well because this is a make or break for him and his family essentially. And he's done such a good job. This was his indie leap. Like this was it. Like he's like, I'm gonna pull the license from Studio 71 and I'm gonna make my own company and we're gonna just me and you do this. And I'm like, let's do it. And then it turns out it's already done like double what the last Kickstarter did when it was with Studio 71. So
wow.
So I'm sure he's very happy. But when it comes to working with business people, as Javon knows, I'm very, very, very blunt and upfront. I understand what they're doing. I understand what their job is. I understand what they will say and do in order to get what needs to be done. And I come at them in the same way where it's just like, listen, I will do this if I have full creative control. Straight up from the beginning. If I ask for input, you can give me input. I'm all for that sort of stuff. And I'm not a businessman. So if you have business strategy that would make this work more, then of course I defer to you. When it comes to the creative and whatever else, just let me do what I do and let's run with it. And I've worked with Javon for 4 years now and on all the Kickstarter projects. And I trust him. You gotta be careful with business people. But I do trust him, and I think it's been basically 4 years if you count the beginning of the last Kickstarter. When you first started talking. Yeah. But that's how I kind of work with publishers and whatever else. Like when I'm working with Tyrone, even still to this day, it's like when working on Repentance, it's, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what the guys want to do. We're going to go do this thing. And then when it's time to publish or whatever else, I mean, he was just, whatever you want to do. And that's usually how it goes. And that I've been in situations in the past with Meat Boy when that wasn't exactly the case, like where you had people saying, sure, you can do this, but you're not going to find any success. So you better not. You better do this and do this and this. And it turns out that, well, we didn't do those things and we were fine. But my definition of independence is simply creative freedom. I do think that you could work in a large company under the indie label and still be indie in spirit, as long as you are true to your vision and don't make compromises. But I will say that it's so hard to do. It's so even now, it's so hard not to think about money in some way that will modify your opinion on what you're doing, and it's a slippery slope. And I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with business people, because even though even though that the E3 press conference was wild, right? Totally crazy that I was a part of it, and you know, Representative Nintendo was there. It's just when you hear people scripting buzzwords in a way that feels manipulative, where it's like I don't need to talk. I don't need to say that I'm for trans people, because you should know that I am for trans people. You should know that I'm for every minority that exists. You should see my work and understand where I come from. And I'm not gonna utilize that to gain money. And just hearing scripted buzzwords of like, okay, I better say people of color here, and I better say all genders here, and I better do this, and this from a corporate standpoint, always like just rubs me the wrong way and makes me feel like it feels icky. And there's no doubt in my mind that that person's probably all for it. You know what I mean? But that in a corporate way makes it feel like so manipulatively weird and fake that I can't help but, I'm sure you could see me recoil every time it would happen, because it was so often, and I'm just thinking to myself like, all right, like should I be saying that Javon's black? Like should I drop that? Should I say that I work with a shitload of trans people? Should I advertise this? Is this gonna min-max my way to victory? Like at what point does this stop? But you know, that's corporate, that's biz. That's the corporate biz for you, and the way things work socially these days. So it's just a weird situation to be in as an artist who expresses himself through his work and tries to be as honest as possible about as much as I possibly can. And then just be put in a situation where I'm around people who are oil salesmen.
well, yeah, it is. As
I feel, and I already feel bad.
You already feel guilty for saying that stuff,
because I know this is a job for these people, and they're just doing what they're told, and they're not bad people. But it's just that's part of independence. That's part of the freedom that I have. I can say these things. I can have opinions, and you know, in the end, I don't actually care what happens. I'm being honest, and there's context to what I'm saying, and you should know me by my work.
I think David Lynch said that. David Lynch, I
love David Lynch, so that's great.
I know. They said, David Lynch, you've said that Eraserhead is your most spiritual film. Tell me more about that. And he went, no. Watch the movie. The movie is the talking about the movie. Like, I don't need to. Sometimes
talking really, it does, explaining things in detail cheapens the experience, because in a lot of ways you're telling people who've had a unique experience with your work, no, you're wrong. And I understand that. And I try my best not to do it. Like I try not to over-explain my work, and I'd rather explain why I got there and how I got there than explaining the details of the unknown. Like I don't write in a defined world where I'm detailing out the backstories of every character, and I don't know what came before or what came after the Binding of Isaac. I don't know the details of his mom's upbringing or his father's upbringing. I don't know where his father is. Like those are all undefined things that I will explore in the future if I ever make a sequel. And I don't like to over-explain these things, because I feel like if I do, it actually cheapens the experience, because you don't go in as a sponge where you soak up these things and then apply your own life experience to them. like if you explain everything and you fill in all those holes, then people can't put themselves in those holes and they won't feel as attached or moved or interested in the project. I'm a big fan of the unknown. I mean, that's why I like David Lynch's work too. Like I like abstract, undefined, but structured art where you get more of a sense of who the artist is behind the art than a cohesive story. Or I like theme and character development more than story.
You like to
stories have been told, man.
well, you don't like, so interesting. It leads into your game design and your narrative design. You want to give people a place to play around with and deal with their own stuff, and to have a connection with you through that. They're dealing with your stuff too. You put so much of yourself in your games, but you're not going to make it like a diagnosis list of like, here are all of my problems and here is how I deal with it. You know, you have been betrayed by people who say, just listen to me, follow my instructions and do it this way, because those instructions weren't designed for somebody like you. And those instructions weren't designed to care about you. They were designed to control you. And you don't want to control people. All of your games allow for an immense amount of freedom. Even The End Is Nigh, which is like the most tense, constricting. That game stresses me out so bad. You did such a good job. And then
that's exactly what I was trying to do.
I know, you nailed it. And the music is so like serene and you're gonna be okay, but it's a lie. That music is like the most honestly told lie about you'll be fine, but you are not gonna be fine. You are gonna die so many times. But even then, you always make me know that I can approach this any way I want. And maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. And it's up to me to have the guts to take a chance on finding out what I'm actually going to do, which is what creativity is as well. You have to, you've been doing it for so long. I'm just yelling about you again, like I often do. When
Danielle wants to say something. She's hovering.
Oh, please.
I'm hovering. I hope this makes sense. Just like a couple minutes ago, you guys were talking about it, I was thinking about how we're doing this family D&D campaign. And I was thinking about how I have this this specific sorry, I didn't expect my mother-in-law to be behind me.
Oh, that's who that is. She can come in on the call and say hi if you want. Totally.
She's got a baby with her as well, my sister's baby.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Who I told we were on a podcast.
Yeah.
But so okay, let me start over. So we're playing this D&D campaign, and when I think in my head, like I have such this clear picture that Ed has made in my head of what these things look like, and like the town that we're in and the tavern that we're in and what the person looks like. And then to think about that everybody else in my family has their own picture, and it is not the picture I have. And I think that is a really like hard concept for some people to even think about, that everybody else has a different interpretation, a different idea, and they don't have this, and then especially they don't have the same information as you, going beyond like a D&D campaign.
Life perspective.
Maybe.
Yeah, everybody sees things differently.
I think a lot of people assume everybody has the same information and the same experiences they have. And I think things would be a lot better if they could stop and go, wait a minute, that's all my own thing. And this person is coming with a completely different understanding or picture of the situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
In my brain, that made sense with what you guys were talking about.
It totally did. And it goes along with the rant that I was starting to do about how any authoritarian needs there to be absolutes. And what Danielle was just talking about is like, let yourself exist not only in the shades and the gray, but the multiple interpretations and everybody's truth being valid equally, to be able to say we're all potentially multiple people at once. We all have different sides to our personality. I've been thinking a ton about how when Mel Blanc was in a coma, do you know this story? They couldn't get him out of the coma. He got in a car accident, and they kept talking to him, Mel, come back to us. And nothing, just no brain activity, until they went, Bugs, are you in there? And he went, hey, what's up, Doc? Like Bugs Bunny would come out. Bugs Bunny was like a separate person locked in his brain. And that's why he could do that character so well and just stay in character. It was actually like different gray matter in his head was the part of him that was Bugs Bunny. So you can be multiple. I know, it's wild. I'll send you the link to it. And you've always wanted to embrace those ambiguities. People have said to you for years, well, what are you saying with this game? And do you think it's good to promote XYZ thing? And you're like, good, bad? I'm just trying to show up and tell you who I am. I'm not trying to promote anything or even promote myself necessarily. You only promote yourself when there's other people on the line and you get to engage with a community in a way that you're really promoting them. Like in the end, you're making tons of people feel mildly famous and part of something bigger than they are. There's something that's honest and real, the way you are doing the promotion of the Kickstarter, where it's like an ARG again. It's just really, oof, I got to slow myself down. I could just yell about you. I hope it doesn't make you feel weird to get the unabashed compliments.
I mean, of course it does, but I appreciate it. I mean, I don't believe everything you're saying is true. So. Well, it's great that you think so.
Yeah, you know yourself better than me, of course. We talk, we touch base at least once a year, I think, for the past 12 years or so. So
it's been a while.
It has been. I feel like I know you. I feel like I can speak to those things, but you, of course, know yourself better than me. Hopefully but multiple things can be true, right? Like maybe I'm right about you in a way that's real, and you also are right about you, and both of our truths can overlap.
Hey, I can get down with that.
Your mom's here. There's another baby. I should probably let you go. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I can say that after this is done, I'm looking forward to the Kickstarter being finished.
Yeah, I bet.
Kickstarter is so a little over 5 years ago when I was starting to work on The End Is Nigh was a really low point for me where I didn't want to make games anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And once I made The End Is Nigh and I kind of knew I wanted to make games again, I was like a rabid animal and I wanted to eat up as much as I could. And there was also the fact that we had just had our first child.
Uh-huh.
And I was being like, well, how much time am I going to have to do what I need to do and be happy with what I do before I need to focus more on family? Because I was having that pull between like what's more important, raising a family well and being a father who's not just sitting at a computer all the time in front of my daughter, or living life. And I stupidly bit off way more than I could chew. And the End Is Nigh, Legend of Bumbo, Repentance,
Mm-hmm.
Four Souls, Tapeworm, Requiem, and a few little projects sprinkled here and there.
Mm-hmm.
All that in like a 5-year period. And this is the last. So this is the last thing that I rapidly was like, I'll do all of this stuff. You'll see. I must do it. And then like I did it all, and no, this is the last one. So like once this closes, I will have a clean plate with a nice heaping order of Mugenics plopped right on top. And I will be able to only work on Mugenics for probably another 2 years and focus on family, not work on 5 different projects at once, and no more crazy crunch for 2 years, and just be able to like relax and enjoy life and making games again. Because Mugenics has been being worked on for over a year in the background by Tyler, and it is phenomenal. It's very it's very reminiscent of the early builds of the Binding of Isaac, the Flash version, where when I see the inner workings, I realize how insanely expandable it is and how playable it is. And it makes me very, very excited to work on. So once this is done, that's what I'm going to work on, and I'm going to vanish. I'm I'm going to not be as on the internet as I am when I'm crunching and, you know, pushing something.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to just vanishing for a little while and working on something cool, and then coming back out with this new fresh thing. And then the plan is, once that's finished, I want to only make small games again, just like 3-month mini projects. And they're not necessarily just like maybe more card games, maybe a board game. I don't know. I just want to get back into that where I feel more independent, because I mean, I'm independent, but I still feel like I'm a slave to my my plans. I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
My dumb ideas, my dumb ideas of like, hey, let's work on 5 projects at once.
It's so in the brainstorming phase, it's so easy to envision how amazing it'll be. And then when you have to do it for 2 years, it's very, very different. But Isaac, the first Isaac, wasn't that like 6 months you worked on that?
Yeah. 3 months.
So yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want to get back into that. I want to get back into this. I mean, I'm positive that if I do a game every 3 months for 2 years after Mugenics is done, I will probably make a lot of stinkers, right? But there will probably be a handful of total gems, and maybe those could be expanded on in the future, or maybe I just keep making all little weird stuff. Like back in the day when I made Flash games, I'd make a game in 2 weeks, you know, a month tops. So I'd love to get back into that, just kind of like a game jam type thing. Work with a lot of different people, work in a lot of different mediums. So I'm looking forward to that ultimate creative freedom of not feeling obligated to finish all the dumb stuff that I started with a million people.
Yeah. To be in that space where you're playing while you're creating instead of working while you're creating. I mean, I know there's always going to be work to it. There's always going to be a character you don't feel like shading or something, and you're going to have to. But you've been doing this for a while, and hopefully that stuff will not take as much effort because it's all muscle memory at this point. And when's the last time I've been this excited about somebody's next step? For you to be able to go back to that style of creating, that is so exciting. And I selfishly just can't wait to play the games. You've never made a game I didn't like. I still want you to make like a new Spewer. Remember you sent me Spewer
it's possible. It's possible.
Spewer is one I wish people talked more about. It's got a special place in my heart, as do you. You know, I'm biased towards you. We haven't seen each other in real life for like 10 years, so it's not like I'm just in love with you.
Last time I saw you in real life, we were nose to nose, almost kissing, in the Gaijin Games headquarters.
That's right.
And that was Meat Boy. That was 11 years ago though.
It was, right? I think, yeah. If we're in 2011 now, that was 10. Yeah, that was 2010. And so it isn't just that we're hanging out all the time and I just am in love with you, that I'm praising you all the time. It's because I do know you and I just love your work a whole lot. So thanks for being on the thing, and come back anytime.
I'm always here.